Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is Joe Marion, Cloud Communications Alliance. We have a great webinar today, and I'm going to first introduce our co-host, if you will, Catherine Trebnick. Catherine's the managing director of Rosenblatt Securities. Rosenblatt helped pioneer the field of market structure analysis more than 20 years ago. But what's really unique is Catherine. Catherine's an analyst who understands technology. She understands operations. She understands finance, which really gives her an exceptional insight into what's going on in the cloud communications industry. She's been a frequent guest on CNBC, frequent guest at CCA events, and she's been written up in Barron's, Wall Street Journal, Reuters, Bloomberg. You name it, she's there. Catherine, thank you for putting this on today. We really do appreciate it. And before I turn it over to you, I want to invite everybody to make sure that you register for the April 17th and 19th Cloud Communications Alliance meeting. It's going to be at the beautiful Vinoy Resort in St. Petersburg, Florida, right outside of Tampa. Beautiful hotel. This is a 100-year hotel that was last year totally redone. I encourage you to come. Bring your special for Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is coming up. So for your special someone, invite them to come with you to the Vinoy, to the Cloud Communications Alliance meeting. With that, Catherine, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you for that warm introduction, Joe. That was very nice of you. Yes, Catherine Trebnick here. I am what you would call a sell-side equity analyst. So my coverage is both in cloud communications and cybersecurity. And today we're here with a good friend of mine that I've known for a long time, Hardy Myers, who is with Cognigy. And today what we really want to explore is conversational AI. And the last time Hardy and I did a presentation or a webinar was almost a year ago, and things have dramatically changed even from last year at this time. So he's going to start off with a presentation. It can be interactive. Raise your hand. We'll address it in the chat. And then, or save your question for when he's finished with the presentation. But I think it is something that most service providers, are looking at, and the landscape has changed so dramatically. And we have now a lot of front-end applications tied into the contact center. So you're developing a stack. And I think it'll be really good to hear where conversational AI, how it plays a key role in all of this transformation. So Hardy, off to you. Anything else I should add on your background?
No, that's perfect. Thank you, Catherine. Good afternoon, good morning, everybody. And thank you, Joe, for inviting me as well. And Joe, I'm not sure that proposing to go to the CCAA session to my wife on Valentine's Day is a good idea, but I'll give it a try and report back how that goes. Reminds me of when I bought her a vacuum cleaner for Christmas one year, and that I've been never lived that one down. So that's it. So just want to meet everybody, greet everybody today. I'm going to cover Cognigy quickly. This is just a level set on who we are and why, theoretically I'm an expert in the area to talk about this technology. And then I'm going to dive into really to give you a macro view of the impact of generative AI on the global economy first, and then we'll take it right down to the CCaaS / customer service, customer operations market sector. And then we'll wrap up with Q&A. And as Catherine said, fine with it being interactive, love that. So don't be shy if you have questions. Let me finish at least my sentence, and then I'll happy to answer a question. Catherine, I'll trust that you'll drive the question because I won't be looking at them. I'll be looking at the slides.
Yes.
Okay. So just real quickly, who's Cognigy? One of the global leaders in conversational AI. And by virtue of our interoperability to generative AI, large language models, which is I'll talk about the tech in just a minute. We're also a leader not in the creation of large language models, but the integration of conversational and large language model AI into customer service. Okay. And we're based in Germany. We have a large set of enterprise customers, strong partnership focus. We go to market with all of the major CCaaS providers, generally speaking, funded by industry leading investors, including Insight and BlackRock and Deutsche Telekom, and very highly rated by Gartner. So again, if that's something you're interested in, you want to talk to us about Cognigy, more than happy to provide you with some of that supporting analyst and customer content. Just quick brands. Again, the only reason I'm showing this is just to establish that when we're talking about enterprise. I can talk about obviously the SMB element of the market too, but our primary focus is on medium and large enterprises globally, with particular strength, obviously, in the European and North American and the Australian, New Zealand markets. And then just, again, the only reason I'm showing this is just to sort of level set. A year ago, if you'd asked me to show kind of like what does a conversational AI platform look like and how does it plug into the enterprise infrastructure ecosystem, if you will, what would have been missing is that big pink-ish box on the top. And that is what's really happening is we're, a year ago in, December, January was when GPT came out. I think all of our lives have changed since then. We've all figured out how to take advantage of it, I'm assuming, or if you haven't tried, it's unbelievable for doing certain tasks. But really more, it was just a glimmer, the tip of the iceberg, if you will, about the impact of AI on our future, frankly, both relative to customer service, contact centers, but also on a macro global level on how we work, okay? And so that was really the point of this. Again, if at some point you want to talk about cognition, I'm more than happy to do that. All right, so let's talk about this. Bill Gates made this quote, the age of AI has begun. And again, this was very coincidental with the launch of GPT last year, January, December of 2022, January of 2023. And of course, as you know, Microsoft has more or less gone in full into the deep end with OpenAI. There's, of course, a lot of other large language models out there that the hyperscalers are delivering, as well as a host of startups. So it's really the Wild West in large language models today. And it's a really exciting time. And if you're not aware of what a large language model is, really, it's a new technology that enables a system to answer very quickly questions accessing huge amounts of unstructured data. And so what it's enabling us to do is to do things like create conversational experiences that we've never been able to before. And I'll show you some of that in just a minute. And then I think this one, Mark Benioff's quote's even more profound, which says, the coming wave of generative AI will be more revolutionary than any technology innovation that's come before in our lifetime, or maybe any lifetime. So, I mean, when you're talking about like, wow, that is a big wow for me. So let's just talk about what the overall impact of generative AI is going to be. So first of all, McKinsey did a really great report. It's down at the bottom of this deck. You'll get copies of this deck that has what I would call a profound level of insight on this particular, on generative AI. But they're projecting it to add trillions of dollars of value to the global economy. They're saying for the 4 areas of primary focus, customer operations, sales and marketing, engineering, and R&D, it could be anywhere from roughly $3 to $4.5 trillion. And if you sort of expand that out to other business sectors, it could be double that number. So this isn't, oh my gosh, everyone's losing their jobs. This is, oh my gosh, we're going to totally transform how people work. And it's going to unleash a huge amount of innovation and productivity in the economy, which is going to be really powerful. And it will impact all industry sectors. This report has a nice analysis of the, call it heat map of where it's going to be most profound and when. But needless to say, for our discussion today, customer service, customer operations, contact centers is where we're focusing. And by no surprise for all of that you have ever worked with contact centers, this is an area ripe for automation and ripe for productivity enhancements. As I mentioned, it will change the nature of work, and the future is going to be humans. There isn't a scenario that says there's no humans, in my opinion, but there are humans with AI-enabled, assistants, if you want to call it that. And there is no question this is going to accelerate. I'll show you a graph of kind of where in 2017 they thought we would be when and now. And we just talked, and I guess the final comment on this really is that we're just at the beginning of this process. There's a lot of things that have to be worked out. We all know this. There's concerns about AI taking over the world, regulatory compliance, data, sovereignty, et cetera, data protection. So all that stuff is very much in flight right now, and so we're at a really early stage. But I think it's just important that we all understand the profound impact this is going to have on our lives, frankly. And so if you look at this particular chart, it shows the impact in dollars and the level of automation. You can see customer operations is really projected to be one of the highest from a dollar impact, and certainly from where the people are putting the money and investing, it's number one out on as a percent. So I will tell you that if your customers are not thinking about this, I'm not sure where they missed the turn, but in general, I would tell you that pretty much every customer we talk to, AI-enabled automation and conversational AI, generative AI have become top of mind. And we've seen in our business alone in the last year just a massive acceleration of interest of customers. Everyone knew that automation was the next big thing, I would say, but the generative, sort of, Chat GPT coming on the market and sort of the possibilities have really pushed this into overdrive, and it's very much top of mind for all chief customer officers, chief customer experience officers, SVPs of contact center operations, et cetera. And this is the chart I was referring to. If you look on the far right, that dotted chart, that's the 2017 kind of like late scenario for automation. And what you can see is that the advent of generative AI has pulled these lines dramatically forward. And what's interesting is the late scenario is almost overlapping the early scenario, which is to say that this is happening in real time, and they're not viewing the likelihood of a late scenario, is the way I would say that, interpret this. So very interesting, and again, just a highlight for everyone that that this is very much top of mind today. And so, I kind of wanted to bring it back to now. We talked about kind of generative AI at a high level. No question, customer operations, which of course contact center is a subset of that. That is one of the 4 primary areas where we see the likelihood of this technology being deployed in the near term. And what's interesting is this market opportunity from Gartner was done before Gen AI. So this data came out. It's relatively. I mean, it's May of 2023. When I say it came out, the data doesn't really have the impact, that huge impact that you saw in the numbers yet. And so what this is really talking about is what I would call the automation opportunity in contact center with conversational AI primarily, because over the course of the next couple of years, most of this generative AI technology still isn't going to be fully deployed or fully operational, I guess is the way to say it. So anyway, the highlight for you here is that we're at the front of a huge wave of automation in the contact center driven by AI, whether it's conversational or generative. You want to think of it as AI, and it's really the combination of those two. And I'll take a minute to articulate the difference in just a second. Okay, I'm going to stop there for 1 minute or 30 seconds. Catherine, any questions so far, or keep going?
No, I think that was a very good summary. Keep going.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about contact centers and customer service. I think we all know that customer service is still broken in 2023. Anybody that has to try to change a flight reservation or call a customer service, we still have long queues, disconnected systems. It's still really painful in 2023. And in fact, Europeans and Americans each waste about 900,000 hours per year on hold, okay, which is more than 100,000 years of lost time per geo, or 200,000 in total. So the point is, this is a big problem. We still haven't solved it. And a lot of this new capability, we believe, is really finally we're in a position where we can actually start solving these problems. And the other problem is we've got this widening customer service gap where you have an acceleration of modalities and customer expectations. They don't really want to wait, and they expect to resolve their problem on the first call. And of course, contact centers are under pressure. They've got tremendous attrition issues, trying to maintain costs, trying to drive CX up, et cetera. So it's a really challenging gap. And the agents, as we talked about, they've got all of these issues that they're dealing with. And what it leads to, of course, is information overload, burnout, a whole bunch of disconnected tools, complex processes, et cetera. So bottom line is, to close that gap, what we really need to do is to combine AI and humans, as we talked about, not AI and not humans, but both. And really, there's really 2 use cases for the technology, and which I'll talk about. One is what we call agent assist, or in Cognigy nomenclature, AI copilot. And then, of course, the customer-facing AI agents, which traditionally referred to as bots, either chat bots or voice bots. Chat bots are for digital channels, and voice bots, of course, are for obviously the voice channel. What's interesting, and I talked about this earlier, is the way that this is unfolding is that the optimal answer is really a combination of conversational and generative AI. And what you need is the structure and some of the elements of the conversational AI solution set, plus the generative AI capabilities to create these amazing transformative experiences that we're doing today at scale. And I've got several demos. I'm not showing them to you today, don't worry. But what I will do as an add-on to the deck is I'll put links into 3 or 4 of the demos that you should watch. And for those of you that have been in the contact center space for many years, like I have, the idea of a fully automated journey, and if I can't solve my problem, a seamless handoff to an agent who has the context, who can quickly resolve my issue and handle it in a way that's secure, multimodal, probably, et cetera, is kind of mind-blowing. And we're really there today. And that's very, very exciting for those of us who have been in the space because this has been really hard and virtually unachievable to date. So really cool where we're at. And it is going to be this combination. We've done a lot of work on talking about this. So again, if you're interested in additional webinars on this combination statement, I'm more than happy to do it. Generative AI has got a lot of great elements to it, but as those of you who have really dived into generative AI, that untethered, it can have some really odd and potentially dangerous and negatively expensive outcomes. So what we want to do is we want to take the structure and the strength of conversational AI and infuse into that generative AI capabilities on a very tight leash, I guess is the way to say it, to keep it simple. And so to that point, what we're seeing right now on adoption of Gen AI in the contact center or around the contact center is probably a better way to say it, is really kind of left to right. First and foremost, and this is where we've already adapted quite significantly, Cognigy and all the other major leading enterprise conversational AI platforms, which is how do we accelerate the time to deploy these AI agents, these AI experiences, and that's around design. And so generative AI enables us to do some of the more mundane and tedious tasks of building these conversational experiences much quicker. And I'll show you an example of that in just a minute. And then moving left to right, the next one, and this is of great of great interest to a lot of contact centers, is the ability to support the human agents with call wrap up as an example, which is a very low hanging fruit use case, sentiment analysis, next best action, knowledge search, et cetera. And then moving over to the right, if you imagine going forward a few years, you're going to end up with a scenario where you could have a fully autonomous AI agent powered by generative AI that more or less could answer virtually any question, very conversational, and enable you to solve your problem in real time. And so we're able to do a lot of this today just with conversational AI, but the large language models make it even more human-like, more conversational, and that's obviously the goal of conversational AI. And so again, when I send you the link to some of the demos, I think you will be quite impressed. The quality of the speech, the cadence, the communication, it's all really, really good now.
So Hardy, back to that. So where are we actually in implementation? Between design assist to LLM autopilot, are there any organizations or even contact center suppliers that actually have this whole cast in there?
Yeah, we have the ability to do the first 3 boxes today. Okay. The right box, I haven't seen anyone doing that yet. Okay. That's sort of like, and as proprietary large language models become more mature, and what I mean by that is the ability for an enterprise to host its data, only its data in a large language model, and that's just kind of unfolding now. This will become more relevant in the near term and will, as I said, enable us to create even more powerful experiences. But everything from the left to the first 3 boxes, that's all available today, and frankly delivering some amazing experiences. So, it really depends on the enterprise's risk profile. And what I see right now is most enterprises, of course, building the bots, it doesn't have any customer facing implications. So yeah, let's leverage that. If a partner's doing it, obviously the partner's leveraging like a systems integrator. And then, as I said, really some of the co-pilot or agent assist use cases are the ones that are getting a lot of traction right now in the contact center. Because, and I'll give you a good example, call wrap up. That if you think about that, that's typically call it a 60 to 90-second task. And it's very tedious to do that if you've been on maybe a long 7-8 minute call, and then you have to sit there and type up your notes. With agent assist or agent AI copilot, essentially the system can fully auto summarize that for you, put it into CRM, and then enable the agent to just quickly review it and tidy it up. So it's never complete. I guess you could go autonomous, but what we see typically is what I just described, which is like a full auto summary loading into the CRM, and then having the agent do a final edit and review, and then hit save or send.
So that would be relatively a new feature for like contact center suppliers in the last like 9 months, really.
Oh yeah, no, I mean this is definitely, I would say, the number one ask requested. I mean, if you read any of the sort of the large CCaaS providers analyst reports and what they're talking about, they're getting a huge amount of interest on this from the customers. And so we're collaborating with many of the CCaaS suppliers to deliver this technology. Some of them have it themselves, some of them have a desktop, and we're just pushing AI copilot type capabilities to their desktop. It's kind of a high, like we talked about it. It really depends on the enterprise and what they want to do. So
okay, thank you.
Yep. So let me just quickly show you a little bit of a deeper dive on each one of these elements. So design assist, this is a good example of, we talked about this earlier, generating training data, create 25 questions that people most commonly ask about COVID-19 policy. Now, in the old days, what you do is you would sit there and you would literally come up with these yourself, or the designer of the system would. And now with generative AI, we can literally ask the system to do this. As you can see below, or on the right, excuse me, that's actually the Cognigy system, and we can actually ask it to do create, in this case 9. How many do you want to generate? And we just hit go, and it just creates these sentences. Now, we're not literally always using these. We're reviewing them. They may be relevant, they may not be. But the point is, it's taking a huge amount of time out of the process to do it. Let's see. And then the second piece is really around generating flows. So this is another thing that you might have heard about, which is this concept that maybe we don't even need to have humans developing these flows. And so what we now have the capability to do is create a basic flow via generative AI, and sort of like write a story about what we want it to do. And then the system actually creates the flow. What's a flow? A flow is actually the instructions in the Cognigy or any enterprise conversation AI platform of what to do. So think of it as a decision tree, the automation decision tree that, depending on what the customer does, go to the next step. And again, this is a visual, we call it a low code, a visual editor. But most of our competitors all have similar, some version of this. We of course think ours is, superior, but and so that's the design assist part of this. On AI copilot, let's just talk about that. Think of it as your, next gen agent assist for enterprises. It's really all about, what are they doing? So they're going to work alongside and assist human agents. They're going to handle phone calls and chats this is the other really powerful part of this. When you start to think about how do we address global deployments, with conversational AI capabilities, which we already have, we support literally dozens and dozens of languages. So you can have really powerful solutions that are in pretty much any language, to keep it simple. And then of course, because we are dealing with AI models, these particular solutions end up over time getting smarter and smarter. Not just by themselves, but through obviously with human support. The one I wanted to, so here are the 6 kind of areas that agent assist or AI copilot people are really focused on. I talked about some of these already, but I want to just quickly work on just take a look at the wrap up assist, which we talked about, and give you a real life example. And here you can see in this case, it's a call summary. Right on the right, you can see the case, what happened, who called, and leveraging GPT, right? And so, and then as I said before, this is in Salesforce. It's presented to the agent. They review it, they edit it, and they just click confirm wrap up, and they're done. So if you look at that versus what typically an agent does today, it's a dramatically different outcome relative to speed. So you're dramatically reducing the level of effort or the workload on the agent. Okay. All right, and then of course we just talked about that with a full CRM integration. So, and then the other piece, of course, is it needs to work with all the infrastructure. So this is an area that we put a lot of focus in, which is, the enterprises aren't looking to just get rid of everything. So we need to make this all work in the environment that they have present, and that really, as we talked about, is a combination of some of the pre-built skills plus the agent assist tooling or the AI copilot tooling, and then the contact center integration, of course. Okay. And then the last piece really is just to show you, how it goes into it, into the desktop. We talked about that before. And these are all sort of different elements of it. So you can see the profile of the customer, the conversation history, next best action, compatibility. Like for an example, if someone was calling and they were asking about this is just an example of presenting the information to help the agent along with the first call resolution.
We do have a question here, Artie. Are you sure customers want to work with AI? In my experience, most do not unless they're comfortable with self-service.
So I think the answer is no, I wouldn't say customers want to work with AI. I think that they probably will have to work with AI. And you're right. I think the more a customer is on the automation, call it journey, the more they will embrace this technology because they will have had some experience probably with earlier conversational technology. And when they start to see how powerful this is, they will be certainly encouraged to continue down the journey. I think that whoever the questioner's question is really good, because I think there's a lot of people that are just like, I don't want to get near it. It scares me. I don't want to touch it. It's too risky or whatever. And the only comment I would make on that is you can pick, and this is really important, you don't have to do any generative AI today. And the conversational AI capabilities of the platforms today are so good that you can automate you can have a lot of really low-hanging fruit, low-risk success in the contact center without any generative AI, okay? So I didn't mention that earlier, but I do want to highlight that. So we deal with customers on all ends of the risk spectrum, on both ends of the risk spectrum. And so we're able to, tailor the solution set to match the customer's risk profile. And, being from Germany, and I think most of you on the call will appreciate this, the Germans are very sensitive to data retention, privacy, et cetera. So we're really sensitive to meeting the needs of the customer when it comes to risk tolerance. And then, the customer facing side of this, of course, is either voice or chat, like we talked about. And, what you end up with, which is so powerful, is that you literally have the ability to do things, if you do this well, 24 hours a day, which means you don't, it's not the same as humans get sick, humans can't come in because of a blizzard, power outage, whatever. And in this case, the AI agents continue working, and we're able to, again, through a combination of both conversational and generative AI, create experiences that are much more contextual, much more knowledgeable, much more human-like, frankly. Because, you and I, Catherine, you can ask me a question. If I have the answer, I don't have to go, put you on hold, go find it. I can just answer the question. And this is what we're trying to do here, and where AI is rapidly speeding up the ability for these, AI agents to be able to do those, to answer much more. The first generation of this technology was very, I'm going to say, dumb. It was very, tactical, do this, do that. You couldn't really ask a bot. I mean, if you guys have tried, or those of you who've played with bots on people's websites, even today, most of them are not intelligent. They sort of have a very clear path of what they can do. And the minute you go off that path, you're getting escalated to an agent. What we're trying to do, or what we are doing, I should say, is moving forward with infusing much more knowledge in these AI agents, and much more context. And so that combination is what enables you to have a much higher containment rate, meaning solution rate, in the automated experience. And of course, we talked about the pre-trained skills, and critical to this, of course, is the integration to the systems of record of the enterprise, like we talked about. This is a really good example of a day in the life of an AI agent. or well, let's call it a very common automated flow that we see customers. And frankly, if you think about the continuum of automation, this is also really how we see customers deploying technology, which is some version of the first two, qualify and identify. That in and of itself is typically a very material use case for the deployment of automation, which is if we can authenticate the client through a automated process before we hand them over to an agent, that will save a significant amount of time. One of our largest customers globally, Allianz Insurance, has adopted this identity and verification use case and saved 90 seconds per call across tens of millions of calls. So you can do the math quickly and see how powerful that is. And of course, then in a perfect world, the AI agent handles the issue, and then they're done. In the case that they're not done, meaning that for whatever reason you need to escalate to an agent, then what you want is the AI agent to provide the context or the handover to the human agent. And then, of course, again, as we talked about before, wrap up the call at the end, auto summarize the conversation, wrap it up. So these are very typically the flow of these conversations of how it goes. And so here's sure.
Sorry, Hardy. In that slide, we do have a question. So does AI reduce the interaction? Does it reduce the number of human agents? I mean, that has been a big question. I know last year on Wall Street was like, oh, you don't need as many agents. But I almost wondering, today things have changed dramatically from a year ago. What's your position on that?
Well, and interesting to that point, Catherine, Gartner in the near term was not projecting a significant decrease in the number of agents. And as the enterprise becomes the contact center, the answer becomes very sort of like gray matter. But I think the answer is the traditional contact center agents, as we know them today, over time, I believe the really simple tasks will all be automated. So to the extent that those people are not upskilled, yes, I think there will be less of that lower skilled type contact center agent. But I also think what happens is as you automate more and more of the, call it low hanging fruit of the automation, sort of evolution, you're ending up with much more complex calls. And so what's going to happen is the agents are going to get upskilled, and you're still going to, and I would say my other experience is, so the short answer is yes, over time, I believe that the percentage of human labor versus, call it digital labor will change. Which means probably less agents. But I also think there's tremendous opportunity for more educated, more higher skilled agents and higher paid agents as we move forward with the combination of human and digital assets. So I'm very encouraged about the future of, I'm going to call it contact centers in general. I just think it's going to change, the composition of the workforce is going to change within them.
And also there's been a big trend towards I don't think Gartner's really come up with a term, but light contact centers. So you've seen like 8x8 and Ring Central, where it's not fully featured function, but they're going after what the non-agents are. So the marketing department, whatever.
Sure.
It seems like Cognigy would fit very well in with these experts to help facilitate a call. Is that another area where you?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Is that, you don't probably need a heavy contact center deployment for certain elements of what customers are the solution they're trying to solve. Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. So,
okay.
And the other thing I should mention, and don't forget, going back to the beginning of the conversation around generative AI, where the 75% of the value is going to come from, sales and marketing is a critical piece of that puzzle. And so what we're seeing is a lot of interest in trying to apply this technology to sales and marketing functions. And there's huge productivity opportunities in that space. And the dollars are staggering. The dollars invested in sales and marketing are, as we all know, are huge. And so the ability to take this technology and point it at sales and marketing workflows, I can tell you, is of great interest to many enterprises today. So.
And then do you see that moving into a contact center stack? Like, would you then expect companies like Five9 to start partnering with a lot of these front-end application guys, because that's such an important element?
Correct. Yeah, no, I mean, many of the CCaaS or all of the CCaaS providers have a certain set of tooling today that handles a certain level of the automation. And then they typically all have partnerships with Cognigy and other of our competitors as well to augment their capabilities for, call it, more complex, more language specific. I mean, this is where, we're able to focus on this customer experience orchestration, including, having really working on languages, things like that, where some of that could be a challenge when you're really trying to make sure that you're delivering that really robust, full next generation CCaaS stack. So yeah, we're partnered with many of them, and we work with them all the time. That's one of our major channels. So yep.
Thanks.
Okay, so this is just again a quick example for you of like the difference between generative and standard conversation. So so this is a person, Sebastian. He has a family emergency and need to get to London as soon as possible. Please provide me with your ticket number. That's a pretty standard generic bot response. If you look below, sorry to hear about the emergency, Sebastian. Can you please provide me with your ticket number so that I can help you get to London as quickly as possible? So, I mean, just if you actually, as I said, I will provide you a link to some of these demos. When you see the difference, you're like, that's what I want. That's the way. If I'm going to deal with an automated experience, I want it to be contextual. I would, we call it pretend empathy. And that's probably not a great term, but I mean, what we really mean is that, customers want to, and if you look over on the right, you can see the temperature as an example, which means, how empathetic do you want this particular bot to be, et cetera. So we're creating that experience. And then this is another good one. Now, this is where it shows you the difference between what you can do with generative AI, how smart we're getting. So please confirm the number of people on the booking. Well, it's me, my wife, and 2 kids. And that would hear 2. Okay, it would not get all of that. Whereas with generative AI, it will actually take the context and get that, and it'll know that means 4. So this is, and we've got great examples of this with, can I take a dog of certain size on a plane and all this stuff, where traditional conversational AI bots just can't, they don't know what to do. And with generative AI, we can actually figure out this stuff very quickly. So it's pretty cool. And then just a sort of, this is the future, which is a combination of human and assets. We talked about that. So, okay. So just a couple of last thoughts before I wrap up that I want to just talk about, which is, okay, that's all really interesting. I understand, depending on my risk profile, I can probably get a very conversational experience today. It sounds like I can do, and I will tell everybody on this call, you can do fully transactional experiences today. We're doing it at scale with large enterprises all over the world. Do not be afraid, or do not believe that that's not possible. And I'm talking great experiences. I'm not talking clunky experiences. So, and of course that, again, that, I would say that we're not the only one doing it, but the point is, you can do it. Typically, as I said, we see customers starting off with some of the easier use cases in their automation journey, but then rapidly moving in, Lufthansa as an example, which is a Cognigy customer, they're doing full transactional bookings and whatnot, or rebookings, leveraging Cognigy. So, when a huge snowstorm hit the DACH region, the German region, the bot was rebooking customers at an extraordinarily fast clip to help augment the human resource, which, I mean, we all know this. If anybody had dealt with any of the challenges of the airlines during the winter years, that trying to call the call center, the contact center, when there's a storm is like, your wait time is 12 hours. So if you could simply have a bot propose a new booking for you, and you click yes and accept it, which is what we're doing with Lufthansa as an example, I mean, that would be an amazing experience for you. So, okay. So a couple things. One, avatars are coming. And I know that you all have probably heard of avatars before. They've been around for many years. In fact, Avaya, I'm going to think 10 years ago, had a whole, avatar initiative. So it's, it's come in and come out. But I will tell you, we're actively seeing large customers thinking about taking this whole idea of truly conversational experiences to a new level, which is to add a visual element to it. So now and again, if you can imagine, just roll forward just a little while, and of course, no surprise, this takes a huge amount of compute. And so Microsoft is one of the leading providers of this type of capability. Cognigy is working on this technology, not the avatar generation, but the actual orchestration of all the pieces that make the avatar lifelike, if you will. And you can imagine that depending on who you are, you could pick the person that you want to interface with, and you may prefer to talk to a male, I may prefer to talk to a female, whatever, and you could pick your customer service agent, if you can imagine. And so really powerful technology is coming, and this is all because of really what's happening with generative AI. And then the last piece really is to start thinking about these more as, if you will, personified agents. And this is kind of, when we think about this, she's a virtual booking. This is Eva. She's a virtual booking agent. What's her job description? What are her personality traits? And here's the instructions of what I think. What did it say? I was looking at this, very focused on getting her job done. I like that. So if you look down at the bottom, it says, Eva's a virtual agent and was created 2 weeks ago by Cognitive. She's very helpful, but incredibly focused on achieving her main task, booking appointments. And so I will tell you what's interesting when you test these, when you play with these, we were able to basically keep the bot completely on track, and you can try to throw stuff at it, ask it questions, like who's the president of the United States, whatever, things like that. And she generally speaking, because we're not connected to the outside world on these are, as we talked about, proprietary LLM type deployments, she's not going to have the answer to that question. But what she is going to say, I'm sorry, I can't answer that question, but let me take you back. I'd really like to get your appointment booked, something like that. So it's pretty cool where we are with this and where it's going. All right. So with that, I'm going to wrap up, Catherine, then I'll leave it open for questions. So let me just summarize on the impact of AI for contact centers. Number one, AI-enabled automation is top of mind. And I will say generative AI, the generative AI shockwave is what I call it, which is really this, starting December of 2022, January 2023, the whole world changed. And so I can tell you every conversation we have with every opportunity, every customer is their CEO level mandates. How are we going to take Gen AI? What's the impact to our business? How does it impact our customer service, et cetera, et cetera? Is there ways to leverage it? And of course, the answer is obviously yes. The two highest interest near-term use cases are agent assist, which we talked about. And under that agent assist umbrella, which I showed you 6 different sub-use cases, if you want to call it that, call wrap-up is number one. So for those of you who haven't even thought about this, that's an area that you should put some focus on. And then I would call it simple customer-facing intelligent agents. Okay. And what I mean by that is I talked about identity verification. I used a specific example of one of the largest insurance companies in the world. You too can get that kind of results. How long is your average call time? And if you could shave 90 seconds off of that, how material would that be to your business? That is a very low risk deployment of automation in the contact center, as an example. Significant improvements in CX handle times, first call resolution, CSAT are achievable now, leveraging the current state of the technology. So this isn't one about, I'll wait 3 more years and say you can't do that because your competitors aren't doing that. And so I would tell you that this technology the conversational AI part of the technology is very mature. The generative AI is not, but there are, as we talked about, just reflecting back on what I covered, there are very specific applications of technology that you can deploy today. And then the last piece, and for whatever reason, people get caught up in the technology, they don't actually do the math. Do the math. The ROI and business case on this is compelling. And if this is an area where you need some help or you want to do it on your contact center or one of your customers' contact centers, we would love to work with you on that. We do this at scale for large enterprise all the time. And it's a super important part of the process because, as we all know who've ever had to have a budget approved, if you can't justify the return on investment, it's very difficult to get the spending. If this is so important to your customer experience, which is important to your competitive position, it's something that you really should do, and we're more than happy to work with you to do that as a player in the space, I guess is the way to say it. So with that, I will wrap. I'm going to stop there, and that's it for me.
Oh, excellent. So Hardy, if I'm a service provider and I'm looking to add this for my customers, I mean, obviously get directly in touch with you, but what about pricing? How are you pricing, and are you white labeled, OEM, et cetera? How does that work? Just kind of high level on that.
So I'll answer it as a general industry answer, then I'll answer it Cognigy specific, if that's okay, because I really wasn't intending this to be a Cognigy. Yes. So generally speaking, industry wise, yes, most of the large our competitors can white label. We obviously white label. We're open to that, depending on size of, obviously the opportunity. And in our case, you can deploy the technology in 3 different flavors, if you will. One is the traditional multi-tenant SaaS deployment, which is how all the main CCaaS providers deploy today, as I think everybody knows. The other is single tenant private SaaS or single tenant, which we see a lot of large enterprises prefer to do. So it's deployed in the hyperscaler, or it could be your data center. It's deployed in the hyperscaler environment, but it's a dedicated instance of the technology for that particular enterprise customer. And the third is on-prem. We can deploy on-prem, and we actually have some very large customers that do that. That's one unique thing that Cognigy does, is we do support on-prem deployments for customers and or regions who have very specific data privacy or protection mandates, I guess is the way to say it. Pricing wise, typically all of us price it on a per transaction basis to keep it simple.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's typically a different price for voice versus digital. And then depending on the size of the opportunity, you could also have what we refer to as enterprise licensing agreements, which, you know, you pay a sort of fixed amount and you can more or less all you can eat. So some version of all of that is pretty typical in the industry for conversations with customers.
Got it. And then we have a comment here from one of my suggestion is to balance all the goodness you presented with customer desire and satisfaction. Not all customers want to deal with self-service or AI, not due to fear, but due to wants and needs. But he said he loves AI anyway.
I think that's a great, I completely embrace that, by the way. Don't misinterpret my enthusiasm for ignorance. I guess what I'm saying is, I understand there are, and this is the beauty of what we're doing here is, you know, depending on here, the way I would say it is free up the human agents to address the humans that want an agent. Let's do that. You know what I mean? And my point of that is there's so much of this journey that we go through that's so painful that a human, why do we have to talk to a human to change a password or my address, which they get wrong when they key it in anyway? So let's eliminate. I mean, seriously, I think we all have had this experience. You wait an hour on the phone, you talk to an agent, it's very nice. You give them your address, they type it in wrong, they hang up, and you're gonna go back in the queue to fix it again. So it's like super painful. So that's one area, and that's one other thing I should have highlighted that I didn't, is the multimodality of the solutions today is awesome. So a simple example is one of the largest power companies in Europe. They got, I don't say got rid of, that's probably can't say that. They figured out a way to have their customers do the meter reading for them. And so they send a text to or they call them, I'm sorry, and they acknowledge that it's the person on the phone. And then they push a form to the customer once they have the customer on the phone, and ask them to walk out to their meter and in the form, plug in the, you know, punch in the 7 or 8, 10 numbers, whatever it is, and hit send. So it's this multimodal experience, things that we all, again, would kill to do. We've been wanting to do for years that you can now do, which is really powerful. And again, because I wasn't focused on specifically what we do or what maybe brand X does, I didn't highlight that quite as much as I might have. So.
Hey, Hardy, I have a related question. What are some of the back office apps? And what I mean by back office, the stuff that the customer doesn't see that's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, so, you know, the good news about this, Joe, is we're leveraging all of the technology that customer has already. So you know, the typical stack, as you obviously are well aware, is either a contact center or a CCaaS solution, which includes routing, ACD, and all that stuff. There's some version of digital channels, you know, being deployed now, particularly with the change of the demographic from say 20, 30 years ago, where 90% of the inbound would be voice. Now it's probably 50-50 or maybe 60-40 digital voice, whatever. It depends on how much, you know, how many channels you have, how you've deployed. And then we're integrating, and this is where this orchestration becomes so important. The only way to do this, what I'm describing, is through orchestration, meaning tying all these systems together. And so it is, and this is really important. We're talking to large enterprises all the time. Every large enterprise has typically some special piece of technology that was created that's part of their competitive advantage, frankly. Maybe it's a proprietary database of, I don't know, whatever, or it's a proprietary CRM, or it's Salesforce, or it's whatever. But all of that technology is always there. And so we, as the CX orchestrator, if you will, in conjunction with the contact center, need to tie all that stuff together to make it work. So there isn't, we don't typically, the one piece that isn't normal, okay, when I say normal, that isn't just sort of typically laying around is obviously the generative AI capabilities, and then text to speech, speech to text, and translation. Those are all typically technologies provided by the hyperscalers. And what Cognigy, as an example, does is we plug into that and we leverage that technology, because that's why would we work on that when there's literally hundreds of billions of dollars of R&D going into that from the hyperscalers, right? So we, and this is the beauty of, I would call it the agnostic providers, like the enterprise conversational AI platform providers. We're not invested in one. If you want to use Microsoft's natural language understanding engine, great. If you wanted to use Google's speech to text, great. If you want to use the translation from, or the speech to text from DeepGram, great. It doesn't matter. And what we see is the ability to mix and match is how you get these really powerful transformative experiences.
Wow, that's great. I like the term you use, orchestrated. That really describes it very well. I learned another term today. What was the word the one you used about pseudo or fake empathy?
Yeah, pretend empathy. Yeah.
Well, that wasn't pretend empathy when I talked about inviting my wife for Valentine's Day to come to the Vinoy for the Cloud Communications Alliance. But I do have a special guest that I want to bring on the stage with us in a minute, to kind of speaking about the Vinoy and
Nice.
Just 1 second.
Great. Well, thank you. If there's no other questions, I obviously, Catherine, if you have any other questions, I'm happy to do it. But
hang on. Do you think? Oh, here's one. Do you think on-hold messages are a contradictory tool to AI technology?
On-hold messages. You mean like sold on hold kind of stuff? Is that the question?
Yeah, I think so.
I think, frankly, what they call virtual hold, or I think that's one of the greatest inventions of all time, to eliminate hold in totality. So my answer is no. I think that sold on hold is what it is, and I don't think it has anything to do with AI. So I guess, or maybe the question is, could we use AI to shape the sold on hold for the customer? I mean, I hadn't really thought about that, but that kind of makes sense. If you had a context for a customer, you could play commercials for them. But look, here's the goal. We're trying to eliminate hold. I mean, that's my goal. Our goal as a CX orchestrator is to make conversations, first of all, solve the whole conversation automatically, if you will. But if you can't do that, get you to an agent with context immediately without a wait. And that's the goal here, is if we automate enough of these flows or use cases, how hard can we, or how much can we drive down the hold times? Because that would, I mean, let's face it, whenever you've had a connection where you got to an agent like right away, it's always like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. So in my perfect world, customers would never wait. We try to resolve their problem, and then if not, they get handed to that. Because I mean, the other thing I know you all have experienced and drives everybody insane is you went through the trouble to punch in your numbers, your contact center, your credit card number, all this other stuff. And then you get to the agent, they ask all the same questions again. I mean, that's the kind of stuff. Just take all that away and eliminate that. That in and of itself would probably have a 10-point impact on CSAT. So
yeah. And I'm happy to introduce Clark Peterson, our chairman. Clark just popped in. I guess you hacked into my computer, Clark. So welcome.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. And I had a statement and a question, and then I think Joel and I are going to promote something real quick. But first, I wanted to say I love Catherine's new hairstyle. That's the main thing that I gathered here. So it's awesome, Catherine. And
it does look good. I meant to compliment her earlier. Thank you, Clark, for saying that.
And if you could just send your stylist contact information to Joe, it would be great.
Thanks, Clark.
Secondly, Hardy, great job. I loved all the examples and made it real. It's AI so much just a marketing term to so many companies trying to claim territory they really don't have products in, right? I mean, you've actually made it real with great use cases. So thank you. My question is, can you also comment on just the power that there'll be when you really combine all this with what I call kind of private AI, taking all the company's private data and everything I already know about my customer, and uploading that, so to speak, into the AI engine, so that when you do call in, that bot or that chat or whatever is it knows that I bought a blue shirt yesterday and I'm calling on the return line. And maybe an extension of that is, do you see that connection with CCaaS to where there's so many of these campaigns that go out over messaging? It's my dentist telling me, hey, your appointment's tomorrow at 3. And if I reply and that, AI is be able to, now it has an intelligent header that says, why I may be calling, and just how much more powerful that'll be when you start to combine that with, technology that is already intelligent with the communication side, than with that response combined with AI.
That's right. That's exactly right. It's the, and that goes back to Joe's question. To me, CPaaS is a critical element of the next generation CCaaS or CX stack, because you're going to use it for outbound notification, inbound, all that. So yeah, I think that the AI takes what is right now, press 1 to confirm, 2 to deny, and turns it into, if you need to change real easily, how can I help you change that? You can change the modality and talk to a bot about your reservation, all that kind of stuff that you can't do today. So yeah, I think you're right. I think the next generation takes that AI and turns those, call it 1.0 automated experiences, into something conversational, which all of us who've ever gotten a notification, like I had this happen the other day, I have to change the appointment. Well, you can't do it on the notification. There's no way to do it there. I have to call somebody, wait in a queue, authenticate, and I don't have time. I forget, I missed my appointment. So if you could literally do that right then and there with a digital assistant, that would be really powerful. Agreed.
Yeah. No, I think those combined are really powerful. I mean, someday we'll have this same webinar, but it'll just be Hardy's avatar speaking with AI
Right.
intelligence. And
honestly, some of the stuff I've seen recently on the avatar side is incredible. Now, I'm still myself very interested to understand, like, are we going to brown out Phoenix to do 1,000 simultaneous avatars? How much compute is this stuff going to take? But it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out over time. So,
thank you and good job.
Thank you.
Yep. So, Clark, what are we promoting today?
So I think we should just, in conclusion, besides whatever Catherine and Hardy say, just make sure, like you said at the beginning, promote the Cloud Connections 2024, April 17th to the 19th in St. Petersburg. I know Joe mentioned it, but Catherine will be there. I believe Hardy's going to be there, and it's a star-studded lineup of all the top experts, analysts, and leaders in the industry. So it'll be the biggest event we've done to date, and we've done some pretty big ones. And so if you haven't registered already, go register and get more great knowledge like we've heard today.